Hi everyone, so this is our second video for looking at the past paper, the CSEC past paper questions on quadratic equations, quadratic graph, sorry. So I really encourage that you look at the first part of this video, and because it'll be easier to follow on the questions moving forward, right? So I already worked on this one, so I'll be able to just go through it a little bit easier, a little more that it will flow a little better. So here we have a graph, and the graph the question says, which of the following represents the equation of the graph above? So in the previous video, I would have stated that when you have the graph with the that goes up like this, it looks like a mountain. This is a maximum quadratic graph. And one way to identify a maximum quadratic graph is by knowing, okay, you have this top piece here, it goes like a mountain, right? The high top there. Now, you want to know which of these equations gives us, represents the quadratic graph. Now, what I've mentioned before in the last video, that in a maximum quadratic graph like this, the coefficient of x squared is negative. The number before the x squared is negative. That's why I would have two x's by b and c, because the coefficient of the number before the x squares are positive, right? Remember, when you don't see a number, 1 is understood, right? So this is really 1 positive 1 before this x squared here, and the same thing for c, right? So therefore, this cannot be a maximum quadratic graph. So that's why I put two x's here. So those two out for the running of which is the answer. Then a and d both have a negative number before the x squared. They both have negative 1 before the x squared. So it has to be either one, right? So what I also would have said in the last video was that this x-axis here, on the entire x-axis, y is 0. So only for the x-axis, y is 0. So technically for this quadratic graph, when this graph f of x, the graph is f of x, when it's 0, it should be when x is 3 and when x is negative 1, right? Those 2 points where they touch the x-axis, right? So now, taking our, we were just checking out, we have to check out, okay, whether it's a or d will give us when we factorize it. So we have to factorize it, put it equal to 0 and find the two values for x when the function is 0 and see whether it's 3 and negative 1. So I was just showing you, well, A is the answer, as you can see, I ticked it off there. But I'm just going to go through the process of factorizing and actually showing, okay, how you really get to see is 3 and negative 1, right? So this was A, right? F of x is equal to 3 plus 2x minus x squared. You need to remember that f of x is the same as y, right? Same thing. And on top here, I wrote down the general equation of a quadratic curve, quadratic graph. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals y. Well, in this case, we're putting it equal to 0 to find the two values of x when y is 0, right? Again, I would have mentioned this in the previous video, the general equation of the quadratic graph. Now, I just rewrote the quadratic here with the x squared first, right? So I have negative x squared plus 2x plus 3 equals 0. Now, you need to know how to factorize a quadratic in order to proceed, right? So I'm just going to try and go through it as best and fast as I could, right? So the general equation is on top here. And we need to pull out the values of a, b, and c. A is the number before the x squared, which is negative 1, right? B is the number before the x, which is 2. And c is the number by itself, or the constant, 3. First, so the next thing we need to do is take a and c, take those two numbers and multiply them by each other. So a by c is negative 1 times 3, which is negative 3. From there, that number we got, that when we multiply the two numbers, we need to write down the factors of those numbers. So the factors of negative 3 is basically the factors of 3, which is 1 and 3, and then the negative of them, negative 1, negative 3. So these are the factors of negative 3, right? And we're going to choose two numbers from this set here that when we multiply the two numbers, we're going to get back the negative 3. And when we add those two numbers, we're going to get the number in the middle here, which is the 2, that 2x, right? So choosing 3 and negative 1, when we multiply 3 and negative 1, we get negative 3. Good. And when we add them, 3 plus negative 1, remember plus and a negative, when you add together like that, it becomes negative. So that's 3 and take away 1, which is 2. So when we add those two numbers that we chose, we get the 2, the number in the middle here. What we're basically going to do is, we're going to replace that 2x with the 3 and the negative 1. Meaning, coming across here, we put back our negative x squared, and then we're going to put negative 1x plus 3x. That negative 1x plus 3x is here, because remember, when we worked it out, 3 plus negative 1, or negative 1 plus 3, that gives you 2, right? So that actually is the same thing as having the 2x up here, right? And then we put the plus 3 that we had from before, right? Equals 0. Now we need to factorize by grouping. Factorizing by grouping is, you group the first two terms, which is minus x squared plus 1x. Then you group the next two terms, plus 3x plus 3. And you're going to factorize. So looking at the first grouping here, what does those two numbers, terms have in common? Well, they have negative 1 in common. Remember, there's a negative 1 in front here, right? And they also have x in common. So I could pull out negative 1x. So negative 1x by x will give me the negative x squared. And negative 1 by positive 1 will give me negative 1x. How? Because a negative and a positive will give me back that negative there, and then, well, the x, right? So then the grouping, factorize the second grouping. We have positive 3x plus 3. Well, right away you see they have 3 in common. So you put your positive sign, your addition sign, pull out your 3. 3 by x will give me that 3x. And then 3 by 1 will give me back that 3 there, right? Cool. So you see you have the same thing here in these brackets. X plus 1, x plus 1. Right. So you put back that there now. X plus 1. And in the next brackets we have here, we're going to put what's in the outside. Negative 1x, and then we're going to put the plus 3. And everything now is equal to 0. Now you break it up. X plus 1 equals 0. You work out the value of x. So x is negative 1, 0 take. When we carry across the plus 1, so you get 0 take away 1, which is simply negative 1. And then you're going to do the same thing for the second bracket. Negative x plus 3 equals 0. So that's negative x equals, plus 3 will become negative 3. And well, the minuses cancels from both sides, so you get x is 3. So my values for x is negative 1 when y is 0 is when x is negative 1 and when x is 3. So when x is negative 1 and when x is 3. That's how we know our answer is D. I know it's a lot to take in. Pause, rewind, go back, take your time, right? If you know you're not good at the factorization, you should need to practice that as well. But to be honest, a question, you would rarely ever see a question saying factorize this quadratic in a multiple choice. I mean, it's not impossible that it can come, but I mean, it came in this instance here, right? So just good to note, okay, how to do it, right? Hi, so now this question, maximum curve, right? Remember mountain. The question says, using the graph above, the values of x when y is equal to negative 1 are, right? Remember we just learned when y is equal to 0 is the x-axis, right? So when y is negative 1, if you look carefully at the graph, you see any kind of bold line here, horizontal line going through negative 1, that is y equals negative 1, right? So if I had a bold line going through negative 3 horizontally, that is y equals to negative 3, and so on, right? So you want to know what the values of x for when y is equal to negative 1. So this straight line here, y equals negative 1, it cuts the curve at 2 points, here and right here. You just need to read off those two values, and those will be our two values of x, right? So if you look carefully here, this is 2 here, right? And this is my point. Now, first of all, we need to understand how to read the scale, right? If you look at from 0 to 1, we have 5 tiny blocks. So each tiny block really represents 0.2. So this will be 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then 1. And I keep on going. 1.2, 1.4, and so on, and reach 2, right? And it's the same way on the negative side as well. This is 0, the first little block, the line there, that'll be negative 0.2, negative 0.4, and so on, right? So this is where my line y equals negative 1 cuts on this side here, right? So we need to read off this value here. Now, honestly speaking, if you was getting trouble to even read the scale, look at your options. You know it's not 1 and negative 1, right? Because where they cut on the both sides is past 1 and negative 1, right? And 2.5 and 2.8. 2.5 going to be in the middle here. 2.5 going to be in the middle here. 2.8 is going to be closer to the negative 3. Sorry, negative 2.8, we come closer to the negative 3. 2.8 going to be closer to the 3 here, right? So that could tell you that the answer is D, 2.1 and negative 2.1. But just to show you, it's here. You gotta go up. So it'll come right at the line right after, or right before the negative 2, which will be going on to negative 2.2. And then here, right, you see the line there, they're going up. So this is really 2.2. I know it's hard to see, but just keep in mind the way how I compared it with the other answers, right?